All right, we are back. Happy New Year, everyone. It is time for SJHL Weekly. I'm your host, Clark Munroe, here at the IKS Media Studios. There has been a bundle of games over the past week. We are back in action, full swing, and we're excited to get back into our broadcasting as well for our regularly scheduled programming, which is SJHL Weekly. We have so much to get into today, including an upcoming trade deadline is going to be a big topic of discussion today. There's already been one fairly big trade, potentially maybe one of the bigger trades of the season, so we'll talk about that. We'll get into Players of the Week. We'll recap all the game action that did take place over the last week and get you caught up to date after this holiday break, because I don't know about you, I don't know what day it is. I'm still getting back into the swing of things. It's Monday. I don't remember how to do any of this. I think my co-hosts might agree. Rory McGouran and Jamie Neugebauer here from the Humboldt Broncos and Notre Dame Hounds, respectively. Guys, was it as tough for you to get back into the swing of things as it was for me?
I'm still caught. There's a vortex in between Christmas Day and New Year's Day, where you just don't know what day it is. You think it's Thursday and it's Sunday, right? Like, I don't know what is going on in between Christmas Day and New Year's Day of the holidays. I feel like I'm still in the vortex. I broadcasted a game on Saturday, and the game broadcast went great. Megan, my partner, said, wow, that break must have done great for you. You sound incredible. But everything leading up to it, I just didn't feel right. I didn't know where I was. I was doing things backwards. And same thing about this show. I came into this, I was like, guys, this might go off the rails. Like, I'm still caught into this vortex, and I feel like I might lose it.
And unlike those two guys, I'm very confident that I'm going to do a great job on this show. No, but seriously, I did have one New Year's resolution. So if you guys can think of one if you had one.
Sure, yeah.
But my New Year's resolution is very exciting. I'm going to start drinking my coffee black.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I'm going to start drinking, and I'm like, Jamie, let's save this for another time.
I've already gone down that road, seeing as I'm the broadcaster of the Notre Dame Hounds.
Well,
all right,
hey, we don't need to worry.
Any New Year's resolutions, guys?
I didn't really make one this year necessarily. I just think just continuing good health and getting into some new hobbies maybe, but that's read more, I think, right? Everybody wants to say read more all the time. I think that's a good one for me too, Rory.
Didn't technically make one, but a few years back I did quit smoking, but I replaced it with vaping. And on the way home from Portage, where me and Megan went to celebrate New Year's, I gave her the vape, and I said, I didn't say toss it out the window because we're not going to litter, but I said, get rid of this. And I haven't had it yet since. So 6 days on that. That's pretty good. I'd also like to learn more about AI, right? And try to integrate that into my life a little more, because I feel like if we're not there when we're 40, 50 years old, it's going to be like older people with not knowing how to use cell phones.
Yeah.
So that's a New Year's resolution for me, is learn more AI and try to get that involved in my life.
For all the Humboldt Broncos fans watching, all of Rory's broadcasts are going to be fully scripted by AI from here on out.
So get AI to write one of your wonderful intros that you do.
Your opening intros.
Those got to come from the heart.
You know what would be funny though? One broadcast, just say, hey guys, this one was written by AI, and just see what happens. Like, get them to write you one
like
and see how it goes.
My intro?
Just for your one show and one broadcast.
Notre Dame, Humboldt, Dazza, Spencer Borside, Dog and Pony Show, Hockey Time. Let's go.
I think it would be a little bit better than that, but that would be pretty funny if you just bought in fully and let AI write one of your radio intros for one of the games. But before we get too deep into the show, we got to thank all of our sponsors, of course. So let's do that now. Borgo, Cantera Seeds, Capital Auto Mall, Sask Lotteries, Chevrolet, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Nutrien, Tourism Saskatchewan. I had these all nailed down in my head before the break. Now I gotta look at the screen again. Saskatchewan Energy, Sask Energy. UPL, of course, the broadcast partner of all of our broadcasts. SGU, Great Western, SGI, and RBC. Nugsy, they're asking you to adjust your microphone a little bit in the back. But as we kind of dive in, why don't we look at the score recaps from the last few days? We'll start with Friday, of course. There was a couple of games on Friday. It was kind of a weird weekend with how the games were all structured. There was 2 games on Friday. Yorkton had a big win against Estevan. Estevan had a tough couple of games over the weekend, 7-3. And then Melfort with one of 2 shutouts on the weekend at the 3-0 win over the Melville Millionaires. On Saturday then, there was a bundle of games. It was a big Saturday. There we go. Kindersley snuck out a win over the Humboldt Broncos in overtime, 4-3. That was a good one. Melfort, again, with a 3-0 shutout victory over Melville. Back-to-back 3-0 shutouts. Weyburn with a 3-0 shutout win over Estevan. As I mentioned, Estevan had a tough weekend. Battlefords with a 4-2 win over Nipawin, but that was a very, very close game. Great game between those two. And then Flin Flon had their way with the Laurent Ice Wolves 10-4. Leighton Carruthers with a 6-point night in that one. We'll get to him a little later on in the show. Spoiler alert. And then on Sunday, there was 3 games. We don't usually get any games on Sunday, and there was 3 games on this Sunday. Battlefords with again, very close game with the Nipawin Hawks, 4-3 in overtime. Weyburn pulled out a big 3-2 win over Yorkton, and I say big because where they're at in the standings, that was a big 2 points. And then Laurent got their revenge on the Flin Flon Bombers with a 5-4 win. That was in a shootout, but it was just not mentioned there on the graphic. But what a weekend, guys. And then it started all the way back earlier in the week. Rory, as you mentioned, we have no idea what days anything are. I don't remember what days those were, but I know that it was the 30th and then the 1st.
Nugsy was caught into a microphone vortex there for a bit. He didn't.
Yeah, Nugsy was working on his microphone vortex. But anyways, guys, it was a crazy week dating all the way back to before 2025 even started. Let's have a look at the headlines here, because we're going to start with, we're going streaking. And of course, we're not going streaking. Nugsy, keep the shirt on. We had a joke before the show. Nugsy started taking his shirt off, and we said, hold on, that's not what we mean. We're talking about the Melfort Mustangs and the Flin Flon Bombers. Of course, these two teams just won't lose, in regulation at least. Melfort's win streak now is up to 17 games, and I think I did it on SJHL Game Day, guys. I mentioned that it's been since November 13th. They haven't lost a game in regulation. November 13th, that was like 2 months ago. So that was a long time ago. And Flin Flon now is up to 16 games undefeated in regulation. They have lost in overtime. They have lost in a shootout, but they have not lost in regulation. So guys, let's start with the Mustangs and the Bombers. We talked about it earlier in the year, how there was so much parity. Technically, Flin Flon is tied for second right now, but they've kind of separated themselves from the pack, I would say, these two teams. What would you guys say about that?
Well, I would say Yorkton Terriers fans are probably yelling at the screen.
Sorry,
right now.
Yorkton fans.
But that's okay.
Now,
look,
I will say this. We're going to talk about Yorkton. Yorkton, don't worry. They did have a 9-game win streak. 8 game. 8 game, yeah. But they lost a game. So technically the streak is over. That doesn't negate the fact that they had a win streak. Sorry, Yorkton fans. However, we're just talking about the current win streaks. Nugsy, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we went deep into Flin Flon and Melfort, whether, which one we like better, blah, blah. Rory kind of went with Melfort. I went with Flin Flon, and that's fine. Look, this Melfort Mustangs team, I said it to Rory last time, just as, if not more impressive, the way they're going about this than the way the Flin Flon Bombers did last year. Flin Flon would blow the doors off of you early and often last year. This year, Melfort teases you. You think you have a chance, and then you don't. 4 games in a row before Christmas break, including, right after the Christmas break. Melfort with at least one big third period power play goal. They seem to get those power plays late in games. They're so deep, they don't get tired, they wear down on you. You're trying to match up, whether it's against Kotai's line or Summers' line. It's such a difficult situation. At the same time, certainly Melville, they miss, who to score goals for them. He's not here, so you can't cry about it. He's in Brooks. What can you do? But again, 2 shutout wins there for Melfort, 2 shutouts for Christian Coombs, who is still without Madden Malacca because, Cristobal Huey is, or not Cristobal, Ewan Huey, Cristobal Huey's kid was at the World Juniors with Switzerland, and therefore Malacca was up with the Pats. But he'll come back, and I'm sure he'll be terrific. But in the meantime, Christian Coombs continues to not allow goals. And I have another stat here for you. The last time Melfort gave up more than 2 goals in a game, it was November the 26th at L'Orange. That's 11 games. 7 of those 11 games they've given up 1 or fewer. 7 of 11 games, 1 or fewer against. For Melfort, we talked about how structured they are, defensively heavy they are. We could just sing their praises all day long, every broadcast and every show, and we kind of have to, because they deserve it. But you know what? It's hard to see them losing. Yeah, I mean, we get some, Rory, sorry, I don't want to cut you off. We get some people saying, like, how come you guys always say so many nice things about Melfort? It's like, what are we supposed to say about Melfort? I mean, they keep winning all these games. We have to say nice things about Melfort. Rory, do you have anything to add to that, though?
Yeah, we left out the fact that they've tied a streak that's been intact for longer than a decade. Estevan didn't do it. Battlefords didn't do it. Flin Flon didn't do it last year. Melfort did it this year. 17-game winning streak is... So I'm just letting you fix it because that's gonna throw me right off.
We're working on your entertainment, folks. Working on your entertainment.
We were listening a lot to Noogsy's beard, and I just thought, you know what, let's move that down.
My beard has a lot of.
There we go.
There
we go.
It's clear.
Now we're rolling.
Sorry, everybody.
Sorry, Rory.
That is very much acceptable. Better fix it now than later.
I was trying to do it subtly while you were
if
talking.
only there were some professionals around that could help me.
You're a professional.
I know. Professionals.
I knew it. I knew this would be the show. We're not going to make it. We're not going to make it.
And that'll do it for this week's episode.
Rory was talking about a streak.
Yeah.
17 games, right? The last time it happened was the Humboldt Broncos in 2011-12. So we're talking about over a decade.
Right.
If they win one more game, Noogsy, as far as you can recall, we might need to be stat checked on this.
Yeah.
1981, right?
81, 82, yeah.
Yeah, to win 18 games in a row. That's what we're talking about right now. No other team in 40 years has done what the Melfort Mustangs are one game away from doing. So, yeah, that's why we're talking about Melfort on all these shows. This is what they've done in the streak. It's not like they've had a long homestand. 9 home game wins, 8 road game wins out of the 17 total. Very much split. 3 shutouts along that path. 14 times they've held their opponent to 2 goals or less, as you mentioned. Only 6 times have they scored 5 goals or more. So close games they're winning.
Yeah.
And where's my last one in there? 8 times out of the 17 were 1-goal wins.
Yeah.
They are winning the 1-goal games. They are not blowing teams out like Flin Flon did last year.
Yeah.
They are not, getting 3-0 leads and then not coasting, but Battleford's 2 years ago. You know what I meant? Leading after first period, they were 27-0. They just never lost. The Melfort Mustangs are undefeated in 1-goal games. They're undefeated in the last 17 games. And you are not scoring more than 2 goals against them. It is such an impressive run.
Yeah. And, just to wrap it all up, from a human standpoint, I'm very gratified to see how well Zach Summers is playing.
Absolutely.
Back and healthy and a long stretch of games in a row, staying healthy, knock on wood for him. But he seems like he's added another element to his game that a lot of people always wondered about Zach Summers, and whether that was he could be the physical guy, he could be stronger. And, he looks like he's gotten in the gym, looks like he's body slamming people. He looks wonderful. This is the best version of Zach Summers we've ever seen, in my opinion. And that is a very scary proposition. His one-timer has really, to me, replaced Chase Freemore's one-timer on that Melfort power play, just on that right side, looking for that one-timer we get from Andrusiak or whomever. And man, oh man, that Melfort team, when the chips are down, you said it, Rory, there's nobody better in the league right now, maybe, than the Flin Flon Bombers.
Yeah, and the Flin Flon Bombers, I have the same kind of pulls from their streak as well. 8 at home, 8 on the road.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a streak that goes back a little bit longer. I have November 8th for Melfort. I believe that's when they lost their last game.
Right.
They started winning that streak on the
Who did they lose to?
Yeah.
Flin Flon, 6-2.
Yeah, it's Flin Flon.
6-2,
Yeah.
Flin Flon back on November 8th. Flin Flon's unbeaten in regulation streak does go back until October 30th. Yes, they have lost 2 games in that stretch, one to the Battleford North Stars in overtime, and one just last night to the Larange Ice Wolves in a shootout. But 8 on the home, 8 on the road, 16 in total. Only 1 time, guys, though, and this is the biggest one that I had to circle, have they won a game that was a 1-goal game in that stretch. Flin Flon only has won one 1-goal game in the last 16. They're 1-0-2 in 1-goal games. 10 times have they held their opponent to 2 goals or less. And obviously, in Flin Flon style, 9 times have they scored 5 goals or more.
Right.
So 3 more times than the Melfort Mustangs throughout a stretch that's 1 game less. They're more of the team that, is getting up on you early and making you pay and pay and pay. But when the game gets a little tighter, it's showing that they're not winning those games like the Melfort Mustangs are.
Well, they're still winning plenty of games. 14 of their last 16 games.
One of which was a 1-goal game.
Yeah, right. But
and
fair enough. And I'm sure that's a little bit more relaxing for Mike Reagan and co. What isn't relaxing is the way that they played this weekend. And Mike Reagan actually was not happy with his team. And the area around, you remember last year, Mike, we talked about it. Mike Reagan trying to get messages through to his guys saying, hey, yes, we're blowing the doors off this league right now, but when push comes to shove, and push didn't come to shove until the finals, but when push came to shove, they got punished for not paying attention to details and not learning. And he has talked about the fact that to start this year, the Bombers had some adversity. They lost some games. Remember, they were out of the playoffs at one point, which is maybe the first time in a long time we were like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But they were still fine. As
I
we
think
can
when
see.
they were out of the playoffs was right before this win streak started.
Yeah, pretty
And
crazy.
now they haven't looked
They're
back.
like, you know what, enough of that garbage.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you know what, we talk about this
Remember.
L'Orange team too a lot, right? Like this L'Orange team, they love to bait you and kind of a run
Yeah.
and gun and a bit of a structureless kind of hockey game. And the Flin Flon Bombers over these 2 games really bought into that. It was a 10-4 game for Flin Flon at the Mel, 3 shorthanded goals in 1 game. I don't know if you guys ever seen a team score 3 shorties in 1 game, where it doesn't happen very often.
No.
Jason Tatarnik's Bruins, the Centennial Cup year, they would score kind of at will shorthanded, but 3 out of their 6 shorthanded goals on the year for Flin Flon in 1 game. Pretty crazy. Yeah, they're dangerous, but Mike Reagan overall wasn't thrilled, even though his team did get 3 of the 4 possible points, but still, lots to like about Flin Flon.
Well, yeah, and I think the big thing too is like, yeah, they scored 10 goals, they won 10-4 and all that stuff, but like they gave up 9 goals in 2 games. I don't think any coach, win or lose, would be like, yeah, we had a good weekend giving up 9 goals in 2 games.
Habits.
You might be
I guess
able
one
to-
of those was a shootout goal.
You might be able to throw out the first 2 if you can have that narrative talking to a dressing room coming out of a holiday break, right? That it's just that the habits, you kind of lost your attention to detail coming out of a holiday break. Some teams are using the break and relishing in the getting away from hockey and coming back, and they're dialed in. And some can be, it's just, oh man, we just totally lost attention to it, right? Coming out of break. You can look at it both ways. So I think that's the way you got to go if you are unhappy with the style of play. Like, let's throw those out. Let's go back to what we did before, right? Where some teams, you know, Humboldt being one of them, is let's throw out what we did before and let's try to find the attention to the game coming out, because they weren't happy with what they did before. So I did have a question, though, about Flin Flon kind of blowing out their opponent in a run and Melfort structurally beating their opponents in a run. Do you weigh any attention to that based off of how Flin Flon lost in the finals last year? When the game does get a little tighter and they lose the attention to detail, now you're looking at games like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mike probably has a greater sense of urgency seeing this now than he did maybe last year.
Yeah.
Being like, you know what, this came back to bite us. And again, you're right, it's right after the break. Mike's understanding that they're human beings. But, he's got an intensity to him this year about making sure they stay on top of these things very, very intensively. On this flip side, yes, Melfort, I mean, they're so battle-hardened, and every single one of their playoff series last year, too, were also tough. So there's lots of lessons that both teams have in their back pocket. We'll see which one learns the most.
Yeah, and I didn't want to make it just about Flin Flon and a negative side of it, because on the Melfort side of it, when you look at their games, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, do they look at, hey, like some of these games are too close, guys? Like, do we need to have more attention to detail or find or capitalize on more opportunities so we're not playing these one-goal games?
Yeah, absolutely. Their shooting percentage certainly could be better. And, I mean, on the SaskTel game of the month that Nick and I called in Nipawin, the first period was all Nipawin. And like I said, it could have been worse than 2-0 if it wasn't for Christian Coombs. Nipawin had a 2-0 lead after 1, and they were all over Melfort. And I know in a couple games there, the Mustangs were not happy with the way they played, even though they beat Notre Dame, they beat Nipawin a couple times. They weren't thrilled with the way that the season ended, or the 2024 calendar year ended. But a 6-0 spot, 2 games against Melville. It seems like they've responded to what Trevor Blevins has to say.
They're good.
Yeah. The one thing I just wanted to point out before we move on to the next topic here is these teams have played the same amount of games throughout the season so far. I know their starts to the year were different. Obviously, Flin Flon, like we said, were out of a playoff spot at one point. So they're a much different team now than they were 16, 17 games ago. But the same amount of games played, pretty much the same amount of goals for. Melfort has 24 less goals against. They have a plus 60 goal differential. Now, when we look at Flin Flon's success from last season, like you guys mentioned, and I'm not saying anything you guys didn't already say here, but their goal differential was huge because their goal total was massive. They did give up the odd goal here and there as well. I mean, they had good goaltending throughout the season, but Melfort's doing it in a different way, like you guys said. So just to point out, just to reiterate the fact that they're doing it differently, it's a very interesting stat line there. Let's bring up the headlines again. We'll go on to our second topic of the day. This one is, it's called Hot Wings or Hot Dogs. Now, of course, we're talking about the Yorkton Terriers and the Waving Red Wings. Hot dogs or hot wings, I should say. Which guys, what do you prefer, guys? Hot dogs or hot wings?
See, I mean, how hot of the wing?
We're talking
hot
like
dog's not a spicy dog.
No, we're talking about just, do you like a hot dog with stuff on it, or do you like hot wings?
If it was a super hot wing, I would take a hot dog over it.
We're talking like normal.
If it was a normal chicken wing, then I'd take the
Hot
chicken
wing,
wings.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's like something special about chicken wings versus like a hot dog is just a normal thing to eat. So
Of course
I'm going
that's-
with chicken
But if it's unbearably hot, then I'm going to take the dog.
I like my spicy wings.
Yeah, wings are next level. I think the thing to point out here is we're not talking about food, though. We're talking about the Terriers, the Yorkton Terriers.
Oh, this isn't a food
And the
show.
Weyburn Red Wings.
Okay.
Now, guys, we were going to call this one Viterra Values because they're both in the Viterra division, and there is a decent chance they might meet up in the playoffs at some point here. So if that were to happen, guys, we did this a few weeks ago with Melfort and Flin Flon, if they were to meet up in the playoffs, or who do you think will have more success in the playoffs? We'll do this now with the Terriers.
Sure.
We're going to go categorically,
Let's do it.
break down the two teams, and let's talk about, now, this is, again, after the Dazza Mitchell trade. We'll get into that
It's right
in a
now.
second. But we're talking about the Weyburn Red Wings with Josh Sale and with Ty Matanovich as their backup goaltender. So, with that in mind, let's start with the forward groups. Yorkton or Weyburn? Rory, maybe I'll start with you here. Which forward group right now would you take? It's a tough question.
It is a tough question. I do think that Josh Sale, we're going to talk about that later, is a great get for the Weyburn Red Wings on just how he impacts the team. I still will give a slight edge to the Yorkton Terriers on their offensive ability if it gets into a game that is strictly based off offense, and that's strictly what the offensive category is about.
Yep.
I would rather have the Yorkton Terriers group right now than the Weyburn Red Wings group by a hair, but Yorkton offense.
Yeah, I would agree that by a hair it's Yorkton, though I still think the best player in the whole series is Ethan DK.
Yep.
As an individual, and he's on Weyburn, but
You might even say the best two players are on Weyburn if you count Maharaj as well.
Yeah, Maharaj
But-
and Renus.
Yeah.
You know.
Keenan
Anyways,
Ingram's
we're really
blowing up.
splitting hairs
Yeah.
there, but yeah, Yorkton overall. Yes.
Overall.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go with defense now. This is also a very interesting one because both these teams, I'll say, are younger defensively. And when I say younger, I mean a lack of 20-year-olds. That's all I mean by that. They have a lot of 19-year-olds and guys who are stepping up big.
Yeah.
But in terms of Yorkton and Weyburn's defensive groups, where would you go with this one?
I think just in terms of diversity of player, in terms of experience in junior hockey and good levels, I'm going to go with the Weyburn Red Wings relatively clearly. Like, first of all, you think about Josh Carman, like he was part of that Battleford's decor that had so much experience, learned so much from the North Stars. I've been high on him in a while. They're really high on getting Luke Schrader from the BCHL. Too recently, they already had Shekhar Barty. The list goes on. So, I really like Weyburn. Yes, neither team is full of 20-year-old defensemen, which is interesting in this day and age. But yeah, I'm certainly giving it to Weyburn right now.
I also am giving it to Weyburn. We talked about this could also change in the next 4 days.
Yeah,
If anyone knows what
trade
I'm talking
deadline.
about,
Yeah.
this could definitely change. But they're getting a lot of solid efforts. Yorkton is from rookies. So Thierry Laliberte, Bryce Dahl, and Tyler Palin and Thomas Reese. Those are four guys that are mainstays in the roster every night, and they're all rookies, right? You look at Riley Cormier and Harrison Aldridge, who aren't. But when push comes to shove and you go into the playoffs, that's where a rookie might get exposed a little bit. Does Weyburn have a lot more experience? No, but they have a little bit more experience. And they have allowed about 20 goals less and only one game less. That could be a little bit goaltending, but a lot of it defensive. So I'll give the slight edge to Weyburn, but with what the Yorkton Terriers came into the league with, we had a glaring concern about their defense because of how unproven they were. They have really proven themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm not giving it to Weyburn because Yorkton has holes. Those defensemen have proven themselves based off of just how uncertain they were coming in. But I will still say that Yorkton can do it all. They have Shekhar Barty. They have a little bit more experience. They do shore up a little more defensively. They don't need to play a running gun
Weyburn
style.
can do it all?
What did I say, Yorkton?
You said Yorkton, yeah.
Yes, Weyburn can do it all, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, going into the season, we talked a lot about Yorkton's defense being Harrison Aldridge and Riley Cormier, and we're like, that's all they got right now in terms
they've
of
proven
returners, right? But then you look at the rookies; those four guys you mentioned, Rory, Thierry Laliberte is tied with Riley Cormier, but they're all above those guys in terms of points, at least.
Yeah.
So they're having they're getting big performances out of the young guys.
Though I said that I picked Yorkton forwards, but my favorite player out of the whole group is Weyburn's DK. I
Yeah.
picked Weyburn's decor, but my favorite defenseman out of both the groups is Tommy Rees.
There you go.
And boys, that could continue to grow on me. You watch Yorkton play, that guy blocks so many shots. I don't care what the stats say, like the Instat, it's not always 100% accurate. I have not seen a D-man in this league that can block shots like Tommy Rees. And man, what a trade. We've said 1,000 times, but that
Great
sleeve of trade, unreal for both teams.
Will we see a similar trade in the next few days?
man.
Stay tuned. Just one thing I want to point out before we move on. 18 players on Yorkton have double digits in points. 18. I haven't looked at all the teams, but I feel like that might be the highest number.
They're actually, it's probably the highest number because they've scored the most amount of goals. But
Yeah.
I just did a quick cross multiplication, little calculus there,
Yeah.
or algebra. I forgot what it was. Maybe algebra, solving for x.
Sounds
me.
great.
They're actually only on pace for 215 goals, which would be a very low compared to a lot of other years.
Yeah, I mean, they have had, I think they have, how do I word this? They have a bit of a lighter schedule the rest of the way Yorkton does. So we'll see if they can really make a good number.
But that's first in the league.
They had a tough schedule.
If it ends
so-
up being first in the league,
I'm
it's
saying
a low
they could
total.
get really high
Yeah, it's
to
a low
what
total.
your total was aiming at.
We still have to talk about the goaltending, but before we do that, just a couple of comments from our social media viewers. I hope they're ready in the back. I'll give you guys a second if you aren't, but we got Lee Moen watching from Weyburn. Hello to Lee. Kelly Lewick chimed in on our hot wing debate. He said, everyone remembers a great hot dog, but hot wings are all great and not as memorable.
That's true.
That's an interesting perspective. Thank you,
I don't
Kelly,
know.
for chiming in.
I remember the wings that I have
Kelly
better.
also said, please don't go streaking, Jamie. The Nipawin Hawks as a team are watching, and they say Happy New Year to all. So shout out to the Nipawin Hawks. And then over on YouTube, Don McInnes, our good friend Don McInnes, is saying, welcome back, guys. So there you go.
Oh, thanks, Don.
So there you go. Now let's move on to the goaltending, Yorkton Weyburn. I feel like this one, now slight edge to Yorkton for the forwards, slight edge to Weyburn for the defense. I feel like this one might not be as slight of an edge, but what do you guys think?
I think I'll just make it quick for me. If it was one guy and one guy only, you don't often go back and forth in the playoffs. At this very moment, I'd take Angelo Zoll, so I'll give it to the Weyburn Red Wings. As a pairing, I know Callum Craig is a good young goaltender. I know Ethan Farrow is a great goaltender. As a pairing, maybe Yorkton, but I don't care about a pairing when you only need one. And I'll take Angelo Zoll right now and give the slight edge to Weyburn.
I call it a dead tie. A dead tie because, I mean, yeah, you're right. But I think Zoll can come in and do the job. I think either Craig or Farrow could come in and do the job. I don't see it as an issue either way. So
There you
I'm a dead tie.
Fair.
Okay. So there you go. A little less, more of a solid answer than I was expecting a little bit there, but that's okay. So there you go. That's topic number 2. So what I'm hearing is we don't know.
It's tight.
They're both pretty
That
good.
was a 3-2 hockey game. Could have gone either way.
Did we want to make a selection?
Okay, let's do that.
If they were
if you had
a
to pick,
playoff round today,
they play today.
Who you would pick?
A 7-game series.
well, I also had a couple more categories. But
Oh, what were the other
I
categories?
had
Coaching?
special teams.
Special teams?
And an X Factor.
X
Special
Factor.
teams is easy.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah.
Special teams Yorkton, probably, right?
Yeah.
And my X Factor is going to determine who I think would win a playoff series.
Yeah.
And maybe you can agree or disagree. I don't care.
Okay.
But it would be because I think Weyburn is more adaptable to play against more opponents.
Sure.
A differential of opponents and styles of hockey. I think Weyburn has the ability to do that better than Yorkton can. If you're able to contain Yorkton, you have a good chance of winning. I think Weyburn can morph themselves into a different team and win in different ways.
Yeah.
So I would take Yorkton I would take Weyburn in a 7-game series.
Yeah, look, hey, every time we say anything about Yorkton that they could perceive as a slight, like a little bit up in arms, and that's fair. You guys are passionate about your fan base, and to be fair, injuries and suspensions and the thing that we won't mention anymore. That they went above and beyond answering whatever bell the group in Yorkton. So their character is clearly there.
Yeah.
But I have to agree with Weyburn because they've been there and they've done that. We look at, they went in that series against Battlefords a couple of years ago. They had a bunch of guys that are still there. Last year against Humboldt, Like, they really gave the Broncos a great
that
series.
was an amazing
Could have
series.
gone either way, too. And they have all sorts of guys. And then they throw in, a guy that obviously is very near and dear to my heart, Cypress Smith-Davis. Like, I know he's built for the playoffs, like heavy, in your nose, a little bit more scrappy. And I expect that Weyburn is a little bit nastier.
Yeah.
That's as well. And I think that matters over a 7-game series because that can tire you out. But it's not because I don't think Yorkton's, good enough. It's just because I think Weyburn's been there and done that and can carry some of that experience into a series, whereas Yorkton's got tons of talent, but they haven't really been there yet. So
it's the chess to checkers, like my holiday gift for the Weyburn Redbirds. They're playing chess now. They've been there.
Yeah,
they've been there.
They've been there. We talked about this a little bit already. Let's move on to our third topic. I think that was a great way to kind of wrap that one up. Dazzling trade. Now, we've talked about this a little bit already. We kind of hinted at it. Dazza Mitchell, last year's top 3 finalist, I guess, finalist for Goaltender of the Year, was caught in a little bit of a numbers game in Weyburn, and he's been moved to the Humboldt Broncos. Not that the Humboldt Broncos goaltending situation was bad. I think Edward Gauthier's numbers proved that he was pretty solid this season. However, when you have the chance to bring in a Dazza Mitchell, who, like I said, was a top 3 finalist for Goalie of the Year last year, that's a huge addition to the Humboldt Broncos. Josh Sale and Ty Matanovich going the other way. Can we bring up the graphic of the trade details, please, gentlemen? And as we get into the discussion of this, Rory, maybe I'll start with you because it affects the team that you call games for. Bringing in Dazza Mitchell with playoff experience, with big game experience, with some great numbers over the last couple of years. He's been in the league for a few seasons now. How big is this for the Humboldt Broncos?
It's huge, right? And it's just something you don't often see, that a former MVP goaltender of the year caliber goaltender is being traded, 20-year-old going as well, which is sometimes hard logistically for the side receiving him. But what it says for the Broncos is that they felt they got out-goalied on some nights, right? That the team in front maybe needed a kick in, the behind in terms of confidence. And what often does that to you is a goaltender that, like Dazza, gets better as the games get bigger. Right. And the Humboldt Broncos right now, I tell you, they're playing every game like it is a playoff game, and they have to, because they lose a little bit more longer of a streak, they're going to be out of the playoffs. The Rangers right on their heels. The Broncos have not won 2 games in a row in over 2 months. Since November, they haven't won 2 games in a row. But they also don't go on long slides, right? So if that latter was to happen, now you're in trouble. So what do? You bring in a goaltender that just plays big in big games, hoping that the team in front of him will get confidence that now you can not be worried if there's a 2-on-1. Your goaltender's got you. If you have 40 seconds left in the game, like in Kindersley, play hard to get the face-off win, the puck out. If a shot happens, your goaltender's got you, right? Maybe a little bit of lack of confidence in the goaltenders. Not that they were playing bad, but bringing in Dazza it's a statement to, hey, this is a goaltender that you need to play better in front of now.
Yeah. Oh, look. I don't. Yeah.
Now, I just will say this, Nugsy. I know you want to bash Dazza Mitchell and you want to drag him through the mud, but he is logged in because he's our guest today. Yeah. He's listening, so don't say anything bad about Dazza.
He knows I've got lots of bad things to say about it. For sure.
I'm bugging you.
He and I go back. Look. I'll quickly just touch on the Humboldt, and then I'll talk about Weyburn for a sec here too. But look, to me, the best goalie that Humboldt's had this year, again, no disrespect to Eddie the Goat, I'm sure he's a great kid, it was Brady Holtvoet. Yeah. Was the best goalie that Humboldt has had this year. When I think about it, and again, you can agree or disagree, you obviously know them better than me, but you can't really rely on an 07 birth-year goalie at this point to take you as far as the Humboldt Broncos are expected to every single year. So there you go. You have a 20-year-old goalie that's established. A couple years ago, Weyburn played Battlefords in the first round of the playoffs. Who was the only team to beat Battlefords in that whole playoffs? It was Dazza Mitchell in net against the Weyburn Red Wings. Last year, against the Humboldt Broncos, Dazza Mitchell, spectacular. Yeah. So there you have it.
Didn't start that series either. Came into relief in game number 1. Zoll started the series, and then they gave it to Dazza the rest of the way. Yeah,
it was really interesting. So, but anyways, you talked about him being his best in biggest moments. Remember Game of the Month we called as well in Weyburn, Estevan and Weyburn, and that was a terrific performance as well by Dazza. Tons of power plays for Estevan.
See, now he's just buttering you up because Dazza's watching.
No, Dazza knows I cannot stand him. So perfect. And then quickly from the Weyburn side, you know, they are happy to add Josh Sale. Obviously, having Matanovich at 05 again, they can have Zola and Matanovich back next year. That's another 8 piece. Sale is also not 20, so kind of that middle forward, maybe bottom 6 forward, a little bit of grit and energy, and a little bit of skill on that sort of bottom half. Obviously, people really key on the DKs, and Maharaj and Smith Davis and whatnot. So you add a guy like Sale when you're doesn't have the best D matchup and whatever. I think he'll really thrive there in Weyburn. So
this was you don't often. I mean, we saw it in hindsight with the Sleva and how it's working for Yorkton this year trade, right? But at the moment, you just go look at it and you're like, yeah, this makes sense. They wanted an improvement in their goaltender category. They got it. Yeah. They, have a max 20-year-olds, whether they open up a spot later, but they had room for Dazza to come in and take it. Weyburn had too many 20-year-olds, right? They needed to get rid of one. Obviously, they trust Zoll. Dazza, unfortunately, to not finish the career in Weyburn, but expendable. But you look at the top 6 for Weyburn in forwards, and they're kind of set. What can they maybe improve on? Bottom 6, Josh Sale, physical, good checker, good penalty killer, can score a goal, scored a goal last night in the Weyburn Red Wings, 3-2 win against Yorkton. It complements both sides right out of the gate so well. And I just, want to applaud Klamosko and Mapes for pulling the trigger and getting it done, because you look at it and I'm like, this makes sense.
Yeah, but from a human standpoint, it's got to hurt Cody too to some degree. Obviously Dazza meant so much and will always mean so much to the Weyburn community after so many years there in Weyburn, and whether it was on or off the ice, obviously this class of an act, and again, he knows I can't stand him, so I'm just kind of making the flip side of it. And then the other element of it too is Josh Sales played a lot of AJHL and BCHL games as well, so and a very experienced kid, not even 20. But Dazza and Cody had been together since Dazza was 12, 13 years old, so they've known each other for a long time. So again, that's hockey. It's a crappy business. Cody, I'm sure it sucks, but it's the way it works.
Last thing I'll say, and then we'll move on. Josh Sale is the tallest forward now on the Weyburn Red Wings. They didn't have much size. They had a lot of 5'9s, a lot of 5'10s, a couple 5'11s.
There you go.
Your boy Cypress Smith Davis stands out a little bit at 6'1", but Josh Sale at 6'2" is now the biggest member of the Weyburn Red Wings forward group. So a little bit of size too for maybe a little bit on the smaller side of the Weyburn forward group. We're going to move on. Topic number 4, know when to hold them. And this is, of course, the trade deadline's approaching. Who are holders, but more or less who are buyers and sellers? Who is buying right now, who's selling, and who's holding? Who's going to know when to hold them and know when to fold them? And the biggest question with that is, the hardest part about our league is that there's a lot of parity, and a lot of teams probably think they're playoff bound, even if they're not currently playoff bound. We're talking Larange, who's barely out of a playoff spot. Estevan, who's still, they could get back into the race before too long. So there's a lot of question marks right now as who's actually going to trade a guy. And the hardest part, we just looked at what Weyburn and Humboldt did, is moving guys that aren't 20-year-olds, which is very hard to do because everyone's holding on to their guys for this year and next year because they think they're going to be good enough. So we'll get into some trade talk later, more specific trade talk. Right now, let's just go through the teams. Who's a buyer and who's a seller, and who's going to hold their cards and not do anything?
I feel like we can get through this quick, or move a lot of this into the last segment too if Daz is waiting as well.
Well, yeah, we could do that.
But
let's go through it quick.
You want to go through the 12 teams?
Let's go Melfort.
Holders.
Yeah. You don't think they're going to buy?
I have them holders.
Yeah, I mean, you don't they brought in Paul and Munroe already, so
right.
Holders,
they've already made a couple of moves. You're right. Flin Flon.
Holders.
Holders. Yeah.
They should be. They probably will get a player.
As we look at the standings, of course, here too.
I'd hold.
Oh yeah, Mike's always on the prowl.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if Flin Flon didn't do 5 like last year, but one.
I think they got one up their sleeve at least. Yorkton.
Buyers. I think they're in a market for a defenseman.
You got to win this year.
Yeah, I think so too. Weyburn.
If they can free up a 20 spot, I think they'd still like to add something, maybe on the blue line. I would say a slight buyer, but if not holder.
I think it would have to be real perfect, which is true about everybody.
Sure.
Like if it would have to fall in, like remember the Cox boys falling in Levin's lap. Mm-hmm. It would have to be a perfect, but I'd say holder.
The only thing I'll say about Weyburn is they've made a lot of moves already. Cody's made a few moves. So how does the whole card situation work out?
Cards and 20s are the one thing
that's the one thing it's tough.
I don't know the ins and outs if a player's willing to go on a junior B card or if they've been hurt for a long time where technically they're not going to play again. There's some things that we miss that we just,
There's a lot of intricacies in junior hockey. Battleford's North Stars.
I'd love to see them buy.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where the mentality is, but they only have 5 20s and they got some room to make a couple splashes if they want to to make another run. If you think about it, this is going to be the last year where they have players on the team that were on their championship winning team. So they have that knowledge of winning the championship. They want to buy and try to win another one. It's only this year, because next year they'll have no one that has championship experience.
And who's more connected than Wiley Riendo? So definitely buyers.
Okay, Kindersley, this is an interesting one.
Again, it's a 20-year-old issue for me. I think they would like to add a scorer. A guy who can go and put the puck in the back of the net. They're really, really structured. They do not change how they play. I know they like O'Halloran. They're at their max for 20s, and just like 19-year-old scores are not hanging off trees. 20-year-old scores, a couple of them are out there. You got to fix your 20 situation. But I think they'd like to add a scorer. If not, they're just going to hold and play the same way.
As long as Clayton Jardine is the GM in Kindersley, they will be buyers every year. Because Clayton, again, lots of connections. And, he's an easy guy to like and to talk to and get a schmooze in there. So, I think he's going to be a buyer too.
Okay, Melville, another very interesting one.
It's unfortunate for Melville. I call them replacers, right? When you lose Ryan Rothke and Caden Jury, when you're in the spot of the standings that you were, you want to get that back. Can they? They have the 20 spots. They only have 5 20-year-olds, so we'll see what they do. But if they were to hold those two pieces, then you call them buyers, right? Now, are they just trying to replace them?
Right.
That's it. I don't know.
Agree. Remember last year they added Joel Maben, and that kind of settled things down a lot for the Melville Millionaires. So maybe a move like that we could see. The Humboldt Broncos.
I think they've already indicated they're buyers.
They're buyers.
If they didn't make the Dazza Mitchell trade, I would have maybe lent that. I think they might try to get younger, right? Try to open up a couple 20 spots and then do something first. I'll say because they got Dazza, they're buyers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else they can do. They've already bought.
They've already bought,
So they're already in.
They're already buyers because they bought.
Larange, another interesting one, because they're right there.
You're going to see our trade bait board after the game. To me, they're going to hate us. But Larange can't hate me this year. I predicted they'll make the playoffs before the year. I said they're underrated, unspoken about, and they're a better team than a lot of people give them credit for. I've said all that.
Yes.
But I'll say they're sellers.
Yeah, agree. They got a lot of useful players that fit. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like they're fitting perfectly together right now to be like a home ice advantage team.
Right.
So, sellers.
Estevan.
I mean, you can just go with the rest of them. I have everyone down. I have sellers for the rest of the three.
I might put Nipawin as a bit of a holder. And the only reason I say that is because they have a unit right now that I really like the way that they're playing, and they're all going to come back next year. So do you keep that, or do you move a guy or two?
But they have. I mean, they call them a seller not because they're going to sell off a whole bunch, but they're going to sell
make a move
the 20-year-olds maybe if they can. I think so.
Yeah. So there you go. There's our little makeshift buyers and sellers. We're going to talk more trades in the third segment of the show, but we got to hit a break because when we come back.
Notes?
Oh yes. Can we move that to the third segment?
Sure.
Okay, we'll move that to the third segment just because we want to get to our guest Dazza Mitchell, newly acquired goaltender of the Humboldt Broncos, after this commercial break.
Your new truck trade-up has arrived at Capital GMC. Volume pricing is back. As inventory levels go up, prices come way down. And right now, we have over 250 brand new GMC Sierras to choose from. Lease a Crew Cab 4x4 Pro Edition for only $269 bi-weekly plus tax with $0 down. Or work with our finance experts to get the best available rates. Plus, GM certified pre-owned inventory is back too. Shop over 150 vehicles, all makes, all models. It's finally time for your new truck trade-up, only at Capital GMC.
Each year, the SCSA issues over 10,000 training certificates to the construction professionals who build our province. That's the population of Martinsville. Learn more at scsaonline.ca.
Saskatchewan's far north is where the land itself inspires. It's the beauty and power of wilderness, the solitude of a place far removed from what you might know. When this landscape surrounds you, it's like nothing else. Come and let it awaken you, energize you. Come and create your story in our Northern Lights and Waterways, Saskatchewan.
In a year where Amazon sold its first book, Alanis topped the charts, and the Frappuccino became cool, we were there. Trusted by the Saskatchewan construction industry since 1995. Learn more at scsaonline.ca.
As a student, things can pile up fast. Ouch. But the RBC Student Banking Bundle makes back to school easier with up to $275 in value. That's a whole pile of takeout.
Introducing SaskTel Student Saving Tips. Tip number 138. You could build your own pallet furniture.
So you're living on your own. You gotta save money by building furniture with pallets.
Or get Infinite 150 for only $50 a month with SaskTel Student Deals.
Increase your home comfort with high-efficiency natural gas equipment. Sask Energy offers rebates so you can lower your energy use and save money. For a list of rebates, contact a participating network member or visit saskenergy.com.
Original 16. Celebrate things done well.
Welcome back to SJHL Weekly. Clark Munroe, Rory McGouran, Jamie Neugebauer. And we're going to be joined now. We're going to head right out to the call because he's been waiting. Dazza Mitchell. Now, Dazza, it seems so weird for me to not say of the Weyburn Red Wings, of the Humboldt Broncos now, Dazza Mitchell. Dazza, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm looking forward to it. Rory, I guess I'll be seeing you around more often here.
Yeah, it's the main positive about that trade is your broadcaster's about to go levels higher.
Hey, Dylan Fiesel, I'll give you Rory's address. You can knock on
It
the
was
door.
more of a shot to Nick Nielsen.
Oh, okay.
I knew Nick longer than Dylan, but both are great guys. I'm just joking.
Yeah, Dylan Fiesel just got some bulletin board material. Holy cow, the playoffs are going to be crazy this year. Dazza, we'll start. I mean, we can't talk about anything else right now other than the trade. I'm going to let these guys talk about joining the Broncos, but let's just talk about your time in Weyburn. Can you talk about the organization and just what it's meant to you so far in your junior career?
Weyburn has been absolutely incredible. I put out a post actually the other day on Facebook just saying kind of some of my feelings and thoughts about it, but there's truly not enough words in the world to describe how awesome the Weyburn community was, not only to me, but to us as a team, all the billets, all the kids around the rink, the community members such as the staff at Boston Pizza where I work, who were super awesome with working with my schedule, the whole board who worked so hard to give us everything we could really need there. It was so hard to have to say goodbye to everyone there and all that community. Once the trade kind of got announced on social media, my phone did not stop lighting up for about 2-3 hours after that. Just all the billets and families in town, just anyone who I ever connected with or helped out or anything like that, just sending me texts and all this, wishing me the best over here in Humboldt. And yeah, it's a tough one, but it's part of the game, right?
My phone blew up too, Dazza, just so you know. I think all of our phones might have blown up that day, so it was a big one.
Yeah, how much did you kind of anticipate something like this maybe happening? I'm not sure if that helps soften a blow to, leaving the team that you've only known in your junior career, but just maybe the anticipation that there might be something happening coming trade deadline.
Yeah, so once we got Maharaj, Ruthven, and then DK back, and we picked up Cyprus too, once you kind of saw the 20 limit, I was kind of thinking alone in my head, I'm like, So you're not going to trade those guys that just came in. You're not going to trade your captain or your assistants. So that leaves like 2 or 3 of us that are kind of on the bubble there. And then you're not going to train your only 20-year-old D-man, really, who's a hometown guy. So through the whole year, I was kind of like, yeah, if there's one spot that's looking expendable to say, it would be me, even though I've been there forever. Yeah, definitely a tough year being bounced around with all that. And then we had injuries to 20-year-olds, so then I was in every night. And just the whole scenario there was not ideal, to say the least. But, hopefully going to make it work here in Humboldt and give it my best shot.
Yeah, for sure. And, obviously, I like to tell people, obviously, I haven't been part of being traded myself, but, it's not like fantasy sports, like it's human beings. But it being your first time, did you reach out to anybody, in terms of, how do I handle this? And I guess how, other than missing and caring about the wavering community, which you clearly do, but I guess maybe where were you? How did you hear about it? How did you react? Take us into kind of your emotions and your psyche and kind of the feeling. What's it feel like to be traded, especially after such a long time of not being traded?
Yeah, so I'll take you through the day, actually. I was down in Vegas, actually, seeing my parents for Christmas.
Not bad.
So I came back from there. I got super, super sick on the 30th, and it was terrible, not fun. So I actually had only skated that day, that Thursday or Friday or whatever day it was that I got traded. So I skated that day, got home. Cody sent me a text about 2:45 after practice and said, "Hey, can you come to the rink?" and whatever. I'm like, oh, here we go. Knew right away. Text my mom. I'm like, yeah, it's might be leaving here. Get to the rink, and tough to see him there, and doesn't mess around. I could tell right away that if he tried to say more words than needed, both of us would have ended up just in tears. So it's not easy. I've known him for 7 years now. His wife Brittany is like a second mom to me. So they've always been amazing, but knowing that someone had to go at some point, I kind of saw it coming once I got the text. And then, like I said, I went home, packed up my stuff a bit, got a whole bunch of texts from everyone, some of the players, some of the billets again, and all that. So, yeah, packed up that night, stayed the night, and then early the next morning, made the drive up to Humboldt here.
So, the Humboldt Broncos are the landing spot, and you look at the team, you look at the roster, you look at where they are in the playoffs, and how you play your game, which is what I was kind of telling everyone who asked me about the trade. I said, this guy, he gets better the bigger the games get. And I mean, you're already good even in meaningless games. I'm like, this guy will be better in the biggest game. When you go to a Humboldt Broncos team now that just has a little bit more comfortability in the standings than compared to the Weyburn Red Wings, does that excite you to know that, hey, these guys are fighting for playoff lives and they brought me in to try and help out with that?
Yeah, it's definitely an exciting opportunity. Like, after spending so long in one place, getting the whole move and trying out something new, a new system, new coach. I've heard a lot of great things about Braden. He's been nothing but amazing for me so far. But yeah, I'm super excited. Like, I got here to watch the Kindersley game this weekend and seeing like the team looked really, really good. Obviously, first game after Christmas, there's some mistakes here and there that will get cleaned up here right away. But watching that game, I was super, super excited, talking to all the guys here, meeting everyone. My billets have been awesome so far. So it's definitely exciting, and nothing better than the Flin Flon Bombers coming in here next weekend as a little test to see where we're at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, welcome to Humboldt. So obviously last season, top 3 finalists. We talked about that a little bit for goalie of the year last year. Coming into this year, in my preseason chat with Cody Mapes, he said both of our goalies could be goalie of the year candidates. That's how much I like both of our goalies and our goaltending situation. Cody seems like he's a very good goalie guy. Just from my talks with him, he seems like he puts a lot of investment into the goaltenders. But coming into this year, what was it like for you? I'm assuming at the beginning of the year, you're like, okay, I'm running with the net this year. Me and Angelo got this, but I'm coming in my 20-year-old year. What was that conversation like with you guys when that kind of all changed a little bit?
So it was definitely interesting going into it with the differences we had without Maharaj, Ruthven, guys like that again. So we had a tough start. We went 0-4.
Yeah.
And then we got all those guys back and supercharged the lineup basically. And then we went on that big 14, 15 game point streak, and that was incredible to be a part of. And yeah, Angelo just started off real hot, and he's been a great goalie. Nothing bad to say about him. He's an absolute beauty, really.
Yeah.
And just to see how it kind of went there, and some of the things I got asked to do as a 20-year-old here with a few other guys. So kind of, again, that pointed out a little bit what it might be like. And then we got into a little bit of a rough patch after that streak. So it was a bit of this, bit of that, and then our rink broke, and then there's this, and so many things that went on in Weyburn. So definitely not an easy season, not a comfortable season at all. So hoping to settle down and play some hockey here in Humboldt.
You know, as far as we've been doing the show, I think you're the first goaltender that's joined directly after a trade before even playing a game. So I kind of want to jump into that situation that you are in right now, going to Humboldt, and I want to learn about it. So obviously goaltenders have different styles, different tendencies when you're in the net. So you go to Humboldt, right? You go into practice, you're getting set to play the Flin Flon Bombers. How early, or you're probably already doing it maybe, because you want to meet the guys first, right? You want to get to know the guys you don't know yet. But how early do you preach to the defenseman, like, hey, I leave the puck here. This is when I go out of the net. When it rims this way, I don't, like that you can get your comfortability with your blue liners and forwards in front of you. Has that already happened, or how does that kind of work in your mind of just letting them know what you like to do?
You see, that's an interesting question, and I'm asking myself the same question, actually, Rory, because I have no idea. I've just been taking it day by day here. We just had our first practice. It was a pretty good one. It was a lot of high pace and a lot of shots, so it was enjoyable. But yeah, I'm sure we'll have that conversation in the next coming days here, like what to do if I go out to stop a puck, what to do with this. 2-on-1 is what we like to do as D goalie pairings, which guy to take, this and that and so forth. So yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat you are. So we'll kind of figure it out as we go here.
Love that.
For sure. Yeah, just the last question there for you, Dazza. You really appreciate your time. Again, people were asking you about anticipating it, but obviously, at some point you'll wear that green jersey and you'll step out onto the ice. What do you anticipate that feeling like? And then I think you maybe have one more game against Weyburn, I think in March. I'm sure you would desperately love to be in the net for that one. I guess just how do you anticipate facing the Weyburn Red Wings?
You know what? I can't wait for it. I'm kind of glad that it's not right away, because we play them twice. We have them once here on February 26th, and then we go there on the 11th of March. So kind of happy that it's not right away, because that'd be a lot of emotions here. But it'll be weird for sure to step back into Weyburn, and I'm not sure what's gonna happen that night, if the crowd goes on or whatever, so on. But I'm really, really looking forward to it, and it's always nice for me to be in Weyburn. I already talked to lots of people there, and I said, I'll be back there. Don't worry. I live an hour away. I couldn't bring everything here to Humboldt because I had 4 years worth of stuff sitting there in my room. So some of it's still there. So I got to go back at some point to pick it up, clean up a bit, and so I'll be back there. And again, I live an hour away, so always a part of that community.
Dazza, I do believe this is your second time doing Rory's Rapid Round presented by Elkridge. Not often do you get the experience coming in, not only in net, but into rapid fire. So are you ready?
I am absolutely ready. I was expecting this.
Good. Okay, I got to bring people a little back. There's a little bit of a story going into the first question. So obviously, you played Humboldt last year in the playoffs going into Game 7. There was a moment, and I didn't bring it up to anyone until now. I'm not heartbroken about it. It's okay. Game 7 is in Humboldt, right? You're doing your pregame thing in your Weyburn Red Wing attire. I maybe go to the concession stand to get a coffee, and we cross paths, right? And I say, "Good luck, Dazza." And you snubbed me. You did not say a word to me. You had a mean mug on your face, and you kind of snubbed me walking past. And now I just want to know, was there anything I said, or was it intentional snub, or were you just super locked in? Do you even remember this?
I don't remember it. I have absolutely no idea. I put my hood up and put my AirPods in, and I can't hear anything usually. So
okay.
I didn't mean to.
Yeah, you did, Daz. Don't lie. Come on.
We were
Rory, I'm just gonna say this: after a game one time, Dazza gave me a hug after one of the games. So I mean,
well, this was prior to game.
I think he just hates you.
Daz is known for being a really mean person.
Well, I tell you what, it was prior to game 7 of the playoffs, and while I'm in Humboldt, I work for the Broncos. It's not on this show, so if you just wanted to snub someone that was associated with the Broncos, I would have took no exception to it. I'm totally okay with it. I just had to ask you, and it was one of my favorite questions I had written down on Rapid Fire. I'm like, I can't wait to ask him about this because I do remember it. And I'm like, man, that guy's locked in.
He's just a consummate pro.
We could be in trouble tonight if he's this locked in. But yes, I appreciate that it wasn't an intentional snub. Obviously, the family business, or one of them, Campfire Grill Pizza, right? I would be mistaken if I didn't ask for my partner Megan, as well as Noogsy, is while now that you're a member of the Humboldt Broncos, we might need to do some ordering from there. Are there gluten-free options? Because my partner is celiac.
There are. We have 4 different options. There's cheese, pepperoni, ham and pineapple, and pepperoni bacon mushroom.
Okay.
They are a little smaller than the normal ones. They're 13-inch, and they're cauliflower crusts.
Perfect. Okay, so we will be placing an order.
That's where we're going.
I'm sure she's watching, and she's probably very excited. Campfire Grill Pizza is very good pizza. Do you remember who scored the first goal against you in your SJHL career? What player?
It was, so my first game was at home. I didn't start. I was on the bench. Joe Young started. We were playing Estevan, our rivals.
He's going to get it.
Game got out of hand a little bit. I think we ended up losing 6-2 or 6-4 or something like that.
The exact score.
I'm going to say it was Mark Rumsey.
It was Mark Rumsey on the power play. That is correct. In a 6-2 game as well.
Is it like an air horn or something?
Oh, yeah, Bryce, hit up the sound effects. He'll get it. Oh, yeah, he's got a bunch of sound effects.
Okay.
He's not
winner.
Winner.
That'll work.
Okay, I got 2 more quickly. A player from your Weyburn playing days that you just know you're going to have a lifelong friendship with, that even when you're 60 or 50, you'll be reminiscent about your junior A playing days in Weyburn. It doesn't have to be from this year. It could have been from any years of your days in Weyburn.
Easy question, actually. Ian Meyer. D-Man played there. He was an 02. Is from Lethbridge. He's taking just school there now. He's not playing anymore, but him and I were the best of friends. I met him actually before I got to Weyburn. We did the Sticks tournament over in Calgary together. That was my first taste of Weyburn hockey, if you want to call it that. And yeah, right away, just connected. Awesome. He still talks to me today, so love that guy.
And I'm sure there's a bunch of them. I just wanted to kind of get one out of you. Final one for me here. Which team out of the Viterra division, because obviously the logical answer would be a team in the Viterra division, do you have your most career wins against?
Most career wins. It won't be Estevan because they were better than us for a couple of years.
It is. It's Estevan, but they're in the Viterra. This team, you have 9 wins against Estevan in your career.
Outside of the Viterra.
If you could believe that. But this team has 1 less. You have 8 wins against this team, and they're not in the division.
Oh, okay, outside the division. I have 8 wins against a team in the other 2 divisions.
Correct.
Kindersley.
Yes, it is.
There it is.
Yes.
Dazza Mitchell, trivia expert.
You have played them 10 times, and you have an 8-2 record against Kindersley, which is probably good because now they're in the division of the team you now play for.
Yeah, welcome to the Nutrient.
Yeah, there you go. Dazza, that'll do it. I think we're good. Thanks for joining us today. Good luck getting adjusted to green and yellow. And we'll talk to you again down the road. Green and gold.
Yellow.
Sorry.
Yeah, thanks. I got to get used to the Christmas tree setup I'm going to have, the green, gold, and then the red pads, because I can't exactly change that at this point.
Spray paint.
It'll be looking a little funny out there, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to get going here this week.
The traffic lights, Dazza. The red pants, at the bottom, or the red pads at the bottom. Anyways, good luck and good luck getting adjusted, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, there we go. Dazza Mitchell. He's a beauty. We knew this. We're going to hit a break, and when we come back, we got a lot actually to get to still. We're going to try to blow through it all here, but we have Nugs and Notes. We have Highlight of the Week. We have Players of the Week, and we have a lot of trade stuff to get to as well. So we're going to hit a break, and we'll see you afterwards.
The Chevrolet Silverado 1500. Advanced power and capability to tackle the long hauls. Style to make a statement on the streets. Visit ChevroletOffers.ca to learn more.
Each year, the SCSA issues over 10,000 training certificates to the construction professionals who build our province. That is the same population as Weyburn. Learn more at scsaonline.ca.
When you buy a lottery ticket in Saskatchewan, your money really goes a long way. More than 12,000 sport, culture, and recreation groups receive funding from Sask Lotteries every year. Everyone wins.
My name is Kyle McIntyre, and I'm the commissioner of the SJHL. We have 12 teams spread out all over this amazing province. 12 teams that hit the road for a combined 324 season games. We take hockey players, we make them better. We make them better at hockey and better at life. That's what the SJHL is all about. We have a great league, we have great teams, great ownership, the best fans, the best partners, and the best sponsors.
Sask Energy Network members are the best choice for natural gas solutions for your home or business. With comprehensive services like heating equipment maintenance, appliance installation, and in-store financing, they have natural gas solutions that go beyond heating to bring you the comfort, efficiency, and reliability of natural gas, both indoors and outdoors, all year long. For whole home natural gas solutions, network members burn brighter.
Introducing SaskTel Student Saving Tips. Tip number 236. You could dye your own hair. Or you could save up to $20 a month on a new wireless plan with SaskTel Student Deals.
Enjoying what's around you. That's what it's all about. Farm to table, in season, locally foraged, look out the window and that's exactly what you'll see on your plate. It's the kind of experience that you'll compare everything else to for years to come. And it's so close, you can almost taste it. Indulge in our unlimited lakes and parkland. Saskatchewan.
Original 16. Celebrate things done well.
Born forward, Jamie Neugebauer.
And we're talking about trading Jamie Neugebauer. I'm like, Rory, shush, we're coming back.
I wasn't born in 2005.
No, you weren't. You weren't born yesterday, but you weren't born in 2005, that's for sure.
Was that on air?
Yeah, just the last couple words. When I was doing this
it was not even about trades, it was more about grammar on how to write it.
Yeah, we were talking about grammar.
And maybe people out there are good grammar police. It was if the sentence is, Yorkton acquires 2005 born forward Jamie Neugebauer from the Hounds.
Right.
Is there a comma after forward?
No.
2005 born,
I think
comma.
in that sentence structure, no.
No.
There's not.
No.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about this more in Nugs and Notes.
I love this, that guy. I miss you, buddy.
What a gem.
Newsy, what you got?
All right, just to try again, I always say let's try to keep it quick, but whatever, I'll keep it quick. We do have coaches for the SJMJ Showcase.
Yeah.
Remember, January 27th to 29th in Winnipeg. We'll have lots about that coming up in the weeks ahead. But here are the coaching combinations. I was told I can't announce which coaches are coaching which teams just yet, but whatever. Emery Lawson, Marty Smith, Trevor Blevins, and Braden Klamosko, and Cody and Doug, which sounds like a great combo. Maybe a TV show coming. I'd just love to hear Doug Johnson do stand-up comedy. I think that would be absolutely terrific.
I could actually see him being really good at stand-up comedy.
You'd be amazing. I just think that bench will be super funny.
Yeah.
But it'll be a great time no matter which coaching staff you have. All right, moving on from that. Move on. Thank you. Just a couple of points of alumni that I'm very excited to hear about this. Yeah. Chase Freetmore, of course, he played 3 games for the University of Regina to start the year. The great defenseman, MVP of the playoffs for the Milford Mustangs last year. Mm-hmm. He has been accepted to the police department of Prince Albert. He's going to be a police officer. He's going to get some training in Regina.
Yeah,
he's going to be a police officer awesome. in Prince Albert, where he's from. So congratulations, Chase. Incredible young man. Very happy for you. And I went to watch Briarcrest College play the University of Regina, the Brandt Center, in a couple exhibition games they had. I went to only one of them. And so how do I get this right? So Keegan Little, of course, the former Estevan Bruins captain, who plays for Briarcrest, his fiance's aunt is a longtime friend of the family of my wife. So they were there.
Got it.
And it turns out that Keegan Little is getting married this summer to his fiancée. And he's going into construction and wants to become a hockey coach. And I said, they're always looking for hockey coaches at Notre Dame. So we'd love to have you, Keegan Little, down at Notre Dame.
That'd be cool. There you go.
But anyways, congratulations to Keegan and fiancé for getting married this summer. And apparently Briarcrest has a very good team in the ACAC this year. So hopefully they can do well. And then the last thing I'll mention is the Circle K Classic. Of course, that just finished a really good U18 tournament between prep schools in Canada, USA, and AAA teams. And the Regina Pack Canadians, of course, made some big waves. Of course, Maddox Schultz totally dominating the tournament. The 2010 birth year dominating 14-year-old, dominating 18-year-olds at AAA in Saskatchewan. Patsy's lost in the quarters to Nax, but both Maddox Schultz and Humboldt Broncos prospect Eli Johnson were both tournament all-stars, and the Patsy's did us all proud here in Saskatchewan for what they did at the Circle K Classic. So congratulations to those guys and all the Patsies. And that was Nugs and Notes.
There you go. Thank you, Jamie Neugebauer and Little Nugsy as well. Yeah. We are going to go on a little bit of a streak of talking about the Yorkton Terriers for like a good couple of minutes here, because we're going to start with the Tourism Saskatchewan highlight of the week. And this comes courtesy of David Coyle of the Yorkton Terriers. Have a look.
Shot for you, and they score! Oh my goodness! The lacrosse goal by Coyle!
There you go. The Michigan lacrosse style goal. As who was that on the call? Was that Blake Friars or who was that on the call? That wasn't Benny.
I'm pretty sure it was Blake.
Yeah, it was Blake.
So good call on that one. I loved how David fell down afterwards because he was like, "Oh, I got to get out of here." In Michigan.
Nice goal.
Yeah, nice goal. Absolutely. Well done, David. Let's talk a little bit more about a couple. Do you have something?
Did I hint that I had something?
No, it just looked like you were about to say something.
That's okay. I was going to say, though, David Coyle, who is now up into the top 20 of scoring, like I predicted 2 weeks ago.
There you go. You did. You called that. Good call. Let's get into Players of the Week. Open the cards. Spread them out. And there's a few Yorkton Terriers in here as well. The SGU MVP of the week. Who else but Keenan Ingram of the Yorkton Terriers? This guy had a huge week. Points in all 4 games. He had a 4-goal game in there. Crazy week from Keenan Ingram, and he is, like I said a little bit earlier in the show, he's blowing up right now, and Yorkton is loving it. The Borgo forward of the week. We're going to go to Flin Flon, actually, for this one. Leighton Carruthers. Just 2 games this week, but he had 6 points. All of them came on Saturday night's 10-4 win against the Larange Ice Wolves. Huge performance, and as Nugsy said in the article on the website, if you want to go check that out on sjhl.ca, maybe expect a little bit more of this to come. The guy is uber talented. The Super U Defenseman of the Week. We're going to stay in Flin Flon. 2 games for this guy as well. Luke Lepper, a very good performance. He's been so good for Flin Flon all year. In the last 8 games, he has 6 points. Again, maybe heating up a little bit. Look out for Flin Flon opponents. And Dazza Mitchell, as we just talked to him, they're coming your way in Humboldt. The SJHL goalie of the week, we talked about this guy as well, and Dazza Mitchell had a lot of good things to say about this guy. Angelo Zoll, a shutout against Estevan, 2 great starts this week, and look for him to get a lot of net time going forward, especially now that Dazza has been traded out. The IKS Media Rookie of the Week, Bryce Dahl of the Yorkton Terriers. This is his first appearance in the awards this year. Like we mentioned earlier, a lot of rookie defensemen on Yorkton. Tommy Reese has got this award a couple of times. Has Tyler Palin gotten this award yet? He has. Yep. So now it's just Thierry Laliberty, it's your turn.
If it wasn't this, it was Defenseman of the Week.
Yeah, he was right there.
But Palin's been on one.
Yeah, exactly. Bryce Dahl was right there as well for Defenseman of the Week, like you mentioned, Rory. And then again, Yorkton, going back there, Cantera Seeds, Saskatchewan Player of the Week, Dustin Renus, 8 points this week. He's got 38 points this year in 32 games. He's having a great season. He's had this award a couple of times. So big week for the Yorkton Terriers. Obviously, they played the most games, but still big point totals coming out of Yorkton. So huge shout out to the Terriers. Guys, we're going to talk trades to end off the show. We're going to do a couple of things. We put together a bit of a trade bait board. And again, we talked about it a little earlier. Larange, you might not like us after this, but it's all good things, but let's bring up the trade bait board now. These are some guys that we think there could be a chance that these guys might get moved in the next few days leading up to the trade deadline, which is Friday. So we're looking at guys like Mason Buchert for Larange, who's having a big year. He could be a huge impact player going forward. I don't have to go through these names name by name, guys. I'm actually going to pass this to you guys. Sure. I'll let you guys go over these. Throw a couple names out there that stand out on this board, or if there's anybody else that you want to mention, go ahead.
See, the thing to me about standing out on a trade bait board is the percentage of if you will be traded.
Right.
And the big thing for me is that the maxed out of 20 spots on a lot of teams, there's only 2 teams in the playoffs that have availability in 20s right now, Battleford's and Melville. Kindersley, Flin Flon, Humboldt, Weyburn, Yorkton, Melfort, all are at their limit of 20s, and the majority of the players on this board are 20. So things would have to shake up on that team, first of all, before they even go out and acquire one of these, or else they can carry 9, but then 120 is going to be scratched every game, and I don't think a veteran player really
you don't want to do
appreciates that.
No.
So, having said that, 19-year-olds don't come around very often, right? I know Vinny Palmerine's playing up in the WHL, but he could be a hot commodity, especially if you could recruit him to come back to the SJHL and play with the team that you traded for. Another one that I think is a more higher expectancy to be traded, I don't know if it's going to be within the league, but because the Humboldt Broncos acquired Dazza Mitchell, I have to think that Eddie Gauthier is the one that they're going to move to get another open 20 spot. So he's an interesting target if there is a team that wants a 20-year-old goaltender. And again, if you're handcuffed on 20s, then, Kent Moores, if Estevan's willing to maybe loan him and get him back next year, it's a guy that I think a lot of teams should be sniffing around about. But yeah, it's hard for me to say that all these guys or the majority is going to be moved just because a lot of teams are just handcuffed on their 20s right now. Probably some are on their cards as well that I don't know about.
Yeah, that's the hard part about it. We can talk about trades till we're blue in the face, but there might be half the teams in the league that can't make a trade simply because they've ran out of these player cards. And for those who might not know what we're talking about, neither do we. Let's be honest. There's a system in place that you can only make so many moves throughout a year. You can only have so many players appear on your roster that are carded by Hockey Canada, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's very confusing. But sometimes teams run out early and then they're out. So they can't make a move. This happened a couple years ago. I'm not going to name the team, but there was a team that we're like, this team should make a trade. And then we're like, oh, they can't.
They can't.
So it's just one of those scenarios. We don't know the ins and outs of who has cards, who doesn't. So we're just going to talk about who we think might have the opportunity to do something.
So what we did was we kind of made 2 trades off each just for fun that kind of we think makes sense. And so, hey, don't get mad at us for this or whatever you can if you want. We'd love to hear your banter. If you think we're crazy, that's totally fine. It's probably true, especially on my case.
You want to kick it off?
So there you go. I'll kick it off here. Should I do both of mine or just one?
Let's just do one each. We'll go around. Yeah.
Sure. Well, so the first one is Mason Buchert, and boy oh boy, talk about an impact guy moving. If he were to move, and obviously he's put his heart and soul out for L'Orange for years, and for him to go to a team and be a really big impact player somewhere else, I think again he's from sort of the Saskatoon kind of Warman area, so I think that would be huge, and so it'd be interesting to see. So the trade that I put together is Mason Buchert to Battlefords, who has 20-year-old spots, for two very productive, good 05 forwards, because you need a little bit of experience to go up to L'Orange too. Yeah. Colton Getzlaff and Josh Nittig. Two depth guys a little bit right now in Battlefords, guys who both can produce. So it's kind of stake for stake. Two, really good players going both ways. But Mason Buchert could really, be that kind of next step guy for Battlefords.
Yeah, we talk about Battlefords as a potential buyer. That would be a huge move for them.
And they're already on speed dial because they had the Seth Dragon trade
for Dembo
and Boucher that went back the other way. So kind of similar, a 1 for 2, going the same way.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I like that.
Already on speed dial. I went with two teams that have had their animosity throughout the years, right? Rivalries, to say that, right? Flin Flon and Estevan, but they've also had their trades go back and forth. So they are willing to do that as well. And I went with a little bit of a, finagling GM type of trade. I have Kieran Ronan, the big defenseman, 20-year-old, and Kent Moores going to Flin Flon from the Estevan Bruins. There is a kicker here, though. Kent Moores is a loan. He goes back to Estevan next year. Kylan Olofsson, who's a 2004 birth year, opens up a 20 spot, but he gets to finish his career a little bit closer to home. A little bit, not crazy farther. He's from Lanigan, close to Humboldt. But Kylan Olofsson's going to be a piece that goes back. They get Kent Moores back next year. They get their choice of one of the young defensemen, either Emerson, Clark, Nash, Holmes, or Schrader. Right,
wow,
so Estevan can have their choice of those three defensemen, and there's a PDF going back to Estevan as well.
Finagling.
So it is.
You mean Schaefer, not Schrader's on.
Schaefer. Schrader's on waiver. Yeah, Schaefer. Yeah. So a choice of young defensemen. You get Kylan Olofsson, and then you get Moores back next year, and you get a PDF.
Interesting.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. And that's kind of the hoops that a lot of these teams are going to have to jump through, though. Yeah. And I also have a loan type of deal in my trade. I'll save that one for later. I'll start with, we talk about Yorkton a lot. We talk about them needing a nice, big, impactful guy on the blue line. And I think we go back to L'Orange. I think Ryland Silzer would be a perfect fit in Yorkton. Of course, they don't have any open 20-year-old spots, so they'd have to move one out. And it's just simply a numbers game. We just kind of had to pick one here. I went with Carter Briltz. I know he's been having a really good year so far. I think he has 21 points this year. He's been playing with Keenan Ingram a lot. But I went with Carter Briltz, Thierry Laliberty, and a second-round pick in the SJHL draft, this upcoming draft. I don't know exactly where their picks fall in terms of who has what picks, but a second-round pick. So I'm going Briltz, Laliberty, and a second-round pick to L'Orange. For Ryland Silzer.
There you go. Well, hey,
that's a huge move.
That's the captain of the L'Orange, I suppose,
exactly.
We're talking about. So interesting.
Might actually even have to be a first-round pick if I'm thinking about it. The more I think about it, but
anyway. Interesting. Yeah, I'll quickly go through my second one then, and I think Yorkton has all these talented guys on the back end that put up points. Maybe could use a experienced grit hitter, fierce guy in the corner. Yeah. So I'm sending Vito Biondo the third, not the third. I don't like being called the third, but Vito Biondo and a pick from Nipawin to Yorkton. And Yorkton sends back a real jewel that they, I'm sure, would love to keep, especially since he's a local boy in Jai Zawatsky, but great talent, great speed, would fit Tad Kozin perfectly. And to make the 20-year-old situation fit, Tate Schofer's a super talented kid, could really kind of mentor a lot of those young kids in Nipawin, play with Ashton Tate, Nipawin, make them zero fun to play against the rest of this year as well. So Zawatsky and Schofer to Nipawin for Biondo, and a pick or maybe two picks the other way. So I think that would really work for both teams, and it'd be very tough. But again, Jai Zawatsky is kind of a top six forward, and how many spaces for top six forwards does Yorkton have?
Right.
they don't really.
And it's Tate Schofer in the same breath is also a top 6 forward who, you know, needs to stay healthy. Unfortunately, he's had a little trouble with that, but he would take off at Nipawin.
The picks going to Yorkton would also be a bit of a sweetener. So.
Right, of course, yeah. Rory, you had a couple you were floating around some ideas.
I have one more, and it doesn't really have a set location, so I don't have a set return. But Marko Djordjevic of the Notre Dame Hounds to stay within the division. I know trading with the Notre Dame Hounds can be a more difficult thing, just how the team operates, right? And especially if Marko doesn't want to go, wants to finish his career there, then they're going to honor that, right? And I understand it's just difficult to trade with the Notre Dame Hounds. But Battlefords has 20 open spots. I know Kindersley and Humboldt are both looking for a guy that can put the puck in the net. So Djordjevic to stay in the division, but to go to one of those 3 teams, all who have a chance at making a playoff run to finish out his career. And that's what happened. I don't have a specific landing spot or a return package, but Djordjevic in division trade. Even harder than an in-league trade, probably, for Brett Pilkington to keep him in the division. Now we got to play him 5 more times, right?
Djordjevic was really high on the trade bait board, and I feel like another team like Melville would be a really good fit for him.
He's got 14 goals, 15 assists. He could do it all.
Yeah,
he's a big body.
What do you think about who would need a first-line centerman? Like, yes, Battlefords has 20-year-old spots, but they have a first-line centerman.
Right.
You can never have enough.
Yeah, you're right.
A really good second-line center is also a good thing to have. Okay, so for mine, this is my lone trade. I didn't go quite as finagly as you with the options and everything, but I think the Humboldt Broncos, I think they're a really impactful forward away from really taking another step, and I went with Finley Radloff from Nipawin. So it's a captain trade. He's a local. That's very tough. It would be hard to do. I think back.
He was either completely disagreeing with you or getting very tired.
Nugsy hates it. Nugsy's going to slam his laptop down pretty soon. No. I think back years ago. This was literally, as we sit here today, 10 years ago now. Darcy DeRoos was on the Estevan Bruins, obviously Tristan DeRoos' older brother. We traded him, because I was working with the Estevan Bruins at the time, traded him to Kindersley, got him back the year later. It was a huge trade because we also got back another 20-year-old that year from that trade, Braden Oleksin, and then they also added another guy. We don't have to get into all of that, but that was a big trade for them. So the way I look at it is Finley Radloff to the Humboldt Broncos, who fills a need for the Broncos right now, for Tice Penrod, a first-round pick, and future considerations, which of course would be Radloff going back to the Nipawin Hawks for his 20-year-old year to be their captain again and go back to Nipawin. But Nipawin gets the young player, gets a pick for some flexibility. Humboldt gets what they need for this year.
Yeah.
Bing, bang, boom.
So you're thinking along the same lines as like Kent Moores. And
he'd be going
Radloff,
back.
Like they're building for those guys to be centerpieces.
Yeah.
Next year.
I can't. Fair enough.
Yeah. So because they're going to need 20-year-olds next year, Nipawin, because they barely have any this year. So they have a lot of 05s. You bring Radloff back to be the captain again, and everyone's happy.
I really look at Nipawin this year like I looked at Yorkton last year. Like all those guys coming together.
Yeah.
Obviously they sprinkled a little bit of lucky fairy dust, with Keenan Ingram and whatever. But great core with Yorkton, and they bring them on, and same with Nipawin.
Nipawin's playing some really good hockey. Yeah. So they are. I look at them as we could be talking about them going into next year as maybe not to the extent of what Yorkton is right now, but pretty close.
With the way that all the teams are locked up, and I know I've got to wrap the show pretty quickly.
We're fine.
With the way that all the teams,
Bryce is like, please.
We don't know the card situation. We don't know. Well, we know the 20 situation, and I mentioned 2 teams in the playoffs have available 20s.
Right.
Is there one team that jumps off the page to you more than others that this team is going to be the most active, right? One above the others, or are we just like, I really don't see it? Or what are you thinking? Is there one that just is checking the boxes to, they might make 3 moves or 2 moves, right? Which could be more active.
I got one, but I'll let Nugzy go.
The team with the most flexibility, with a GM that has lots of connections, that's actually pretty high up in the standings, is the Battlefords North Stars. They have... they have Jackson Allen and they have Jordan Grill in their room, and they have to look at those guys and say, we're going to do what we can to put a team around you that can really push the Flin Flons and the Melfords and the Yorktons and the Waverns of this world, and say, hey, you've poured out your blood and guts for Battlefords.
Sure.
We're going to try to put something around you. So for me, it's Battlefords.
I think it's Melville. I feel like Doug's, they got off such a good start this year, and obviously dealt with some adversity with guys leaving. And I think he's in a spot where he wants to get back to where they were at the start of the year. So I think with their open 20-year-old spots and how many 20-year-olds hypothetically, for what we think might be available, hypothetically, I think they might just kind of go out and say, we'll get this 20-year-old, we'll get this 20-year-old, we'll get this 20-year-old. Maybe
that would be a way for them to do it.
You guys are not dummies, but what you're also saying is dancing around the 20-year-old aspect of it is easier said than done.
Oh, yeah.
And the two teams you picked are the only two playoff teams that aren't maxed out on 20-year-olds right now.
That's the hardest thing.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing.
Yeah. And the other good thing, and it's good for our league, is that the conversation is based around, well, all these teams are maxed out on 20s, and they're all pretty good. So it's like, how do you can't really upgrade on a lot of them. There's really good 20-year-olds in our league this year. So, it's a bit of a sticking point for sure, but it should make for an interesting few days. And we'll see, do we get lots? Do we get a little? We don't know. We're going to find out.
The 10th, Nugsy.
Yes.
At what time?
5 p.m.
That's
5
another
p.m.
news
this
and
time.
notes for you there.
There is news and notes, yeah. We'll be back on Thursday. We're not quite done the show yet, but we'll be back on Thursday. If anything happens between now and Thursday, Nugsy, we're going to cover you. Maybe do a little bit more of a preview on Thursday, just because we're going to be right at the wire. And then next week on Monday, we're actually going to have a live broadcast from Capital Auto Mall. We're going to be on location. Did you know about this?
Nope.
I was just thinking. Did we tell Rory?
I'll be there.
So we're not going to be here next week. Yeah, we're going to be in Regina, but it'll be at the Capital Auto Mall on location, because they're our trade sponsor this year. So we'll be there recapping the entire trade deadline, what happened, what didn't happen. We'll probably do a hypothetical, what we wish might have happened but didn't type thing. But that'll be next week. Just so you know, that's our timeline for a broadcast. Yeah. So yeah, sorry about that. We're not here next week.
I go to the same city, so it's okay. I'll find
you just have to find the spot. Let's bring up our schedule going forward. We got Tuesday and Wednesday games this week. So Tuesday, Melfort and Battleford's play. That's going to be a really good one. Notre Dame and Kindersley get back on the ice. I know Notre Dame didn't play this weekend, so it'll be nice for them to get back on the ice. And then Yorkton and Weyburn, a rematch of Sunday's game. This will be another great one in Weyburn this time. Notre Dame will be in Battleford's, continuing their little road trip. And Nipawin is taking on the Flin Flon Bombers. So it's going to be a fun couple of days. We'll be back on Thursday to recap those games and talk about what's coming up. And so much more. For Rory, for Jamie.
Hey, hold on. Yeah, I got to say one thing.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to be disrespectful or anything, but I just want to give a shout out to USA Hockey for winning.
Oh, jeez.
I know there's a lot of US kids in the league too. So
You're right.
I hope they're giving their teammates digging it in a little bit.
You're right.
I gotta go sit on a bus with the most American team in the league tomorrow.
That's true. You do.
Just one more time.
Oh no, Freebird. Oh no.
All right. Well, that's it for me.
Yeah. For those who don't know, everyone's like, why is he talking about it? Bryce is American. Bryce is American.
Very proudly.
Our director. Can you believe it?
Sorry, I had to get it in.
You're right. Good call, Bryce. That was the right thing to do.
They were the best team.
By far.
Yeah, coming into it. So, I mean, that's fine.
When you finally...
You didn't mention them. I thought...
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
When as a nation you finally get your 8th gold medal in all of international play all time, and Canada got theirs in the 90s, I totally get that you might be a little bit excited. Canada has 20 of them, so we're just a little used to having gold around our necks. You're not as used to it as Americans, so I totally get the fact that you'd want to maybe celebrate a little bit. Totally get it. Have your fun, Bryce. Bryce, we love you, buddy. For Bryce in the back and for Rolf, who was helping us out today, thank you guys. Everyone here at IKS Media. Everyone tuning in on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, anywhere else you might have tuned in, thank you for doing that. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the follow button on all of our social media channels. One more thank you to all of our sponsors as well. Borgo, Capital Auto Mall, Canterra Seeds. Let's see if I can do this without the graphic. Canterra Seeds, Sask Energy, SGI, Sask Lotteries. There we go. Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Chevrolet, Tourism Saskatchewan, UPL, SGEU, Great Western, SGI, and RBC. Thanks to everybody there. We'll be back on Thursday. Any last words, guys?
Trade deadline.
Trade deadline.
It's going to be fun.
It's coming. It's coming. It's fun every year. Moves or no moves, it's always fun.
Rory and Dazza. What a combo.
I'm very excited.
You got to get Dazza on your stylist. You and Dazza got to start getting the stylist game going together.
I can maybe do a little swap. I have
you might be the same sizes.
Pretty strong connection with my stylist, who happens to be Megan, and she loves gluten-free pizza. So if we can do a little swap there, I'm sure.
You guys might be the same size. You can probably give him a jacket or two.
Me and Daz, I can hook up.
Rory's way more.
I could hook him up with a jacket.
Anyways, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you again on Thursday and then again on Monday. Enjoy the hockey.